Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Bin of Words. Now, you might be asked what Bin of Words is about. It's actually my podcast. The idea of Bin of Words is to inform you, to give you any relevant news to the topic I'm talking about, and then make some comments of my own. These are my own comments, so you don't take them as gospel. You should. I've been running an audio version of this for about 6 months now. So I decided also to do a double. Record it on here, put it up to my audio side, and also make a visual one. As they say, I have a beautiful face for radio. What areas do I look at, you might ask? Well, I look at housing, I look at benefits, I look at politics in some strange way, and really anything to do with homelessness, which is a big subject. It's an area that I wouldn't call myself an expert in. I have got lived experience of being homeless. It's taught me quite a lot. But today's topic, which if you want to listen to my audio version last week, I did a very extensive view of it. And the subject is called experts. Now, we hear many experts, they make these predictions and they say things, and what are we to argue with them? After all, they are the experts. How can we say anything else but you're right, you must be? But I'm going to give you 3 examples of where maybe the experts were wrong. First is myself. Now I'm going to tell you a personal thing about me. I just come out of hospital for 2 weeks ago. I was in hospital since the beginning of the year. And last November, I found myself walking less and less and not being able to walk. So I phoned my doctor and I asked him what was wrong. He came round and did a visual examination of me. He didn't do a physical examination. He didn't look at my leg or my foot and said, "You've got cellulitis." Well, how can I argue? He is the expert. So he gave me some antibiotics. And I first thought I had an allergic reaction to. Actually, I couldn't get hold of him because by the time I took him, he was closed. I phoned 111, who gave me something else which I assumed was a replacement. No, it was to help me deal with them. Well, I got rid of the others. So a week later, I got a new lot of antibiotics. So you could say I spent 3.5 weeks on antibiotics which didn't work. They weren't even right for me. In the end, I once again spoke to 111. They took me into hospital and the diagnosis was wrong. But my doctor's the expert. He should know. Actually, one thing on his defense is visually he was right, but he should have looked closer and seen what else was around my foot, as they said at the hospital. In the end, unfortunately, I've had a couple of toes amputated. And finally, I'm out, but I've got to learn how to walk again. Not very good result for me. That's the first example. Second example is from a friend of mine. I was talking to her about this topic last year. Well, earlier this year. And she mentioned about her daughter. Her daughter has certain emotional needs, problems. And she said to the therapist, "Why is my daughter like this?" The expert turned around and said, "It's because you're a single parent." You're a single parent? That must mean that every single parent, their children is really in a bad state. But this is an expert, again. But what a disgusting thing to say. The other thing is a certain friend of mine was having problems with his benefits. It'd been sanctioned. Now, you told me several different things. I'm going to tell you them, and someone's going to, I think they'll surprise you. They surprised me, one of them. And he queried about the sanction, and he's challenged it. He has now won. But he was sent a letter which is attached to a journal. In Universal Credit, you get a journal, which you online thing. So he looked at the letter and he was told to get in touch with a case officer if he had any questions. He asked, who is the case officer? They said to him, oh, it's the signature on the letter. There was no signature on the letter. Can you believe that? I don't either. Now, he's now won. He's actually gone from the job seekers allowance version of Universal Credit to what they call temporary sick. He's got to bring a sick note every 3 months. But he was sent these series of questions, which they said we asked. And the second one really surprised me. It said, are you due to die in the next 6 months? Sensitivity? No. Actually, I've heard other stories about the insensitivity of some of the DWP, and I would say not all of them are bad. I've had experiences of some of them. I've had what I've called 2 advisors from hell who didn't listen, and if it were anybody else, well, my situation really would have been bad when I was saying that. But they were asked why they had trauma. What's it got to do with them? They're not psychotherapists. Actually, the truth is that most people who do these assessments are not specialists in that field. An example can be, as I used to work for a theatre company, we did certain plays about certain areas, and we're doing about PIP. And we usually get the audience to share their tales. And one woman stood up at one place I was at, and she turned around, and this surprised me. She said, well, I went for my assessment. I was seen by a physiotherapist. I have mental health issues. Yes, that's logical. A physiotherapist know all about mental health. I thought they're trained in everything. No, they're not. The question is, the questions they ask are usually on these little things, and the government are hoping to fail everybody. But the question is, what can we do about these experts? Now, funny enough, if we look at the government, remember one thing with COVID, the experts were saying several different things and the government were ignoring it. Actually, the question I want to ask you, my dear listeners, is now we have a 4th strain of COVID. What's going to happen? There's no talk of any sort of lockdown, no talk of anything apart from maybe a 4th injection. But there's the question. What do we do with experts? Do we say they are gods? Well, remember one thing, in our viewpoint, or my viewpoint anyway, is these experts have been trained in the area. My doctor must have been trained as a medical person. The psychotherapist, I trained as a counsellor. Yeah, we've got lots of training to do. And to be a psychotherapist, which I did start, too much money in the end. Yeah, you learn a lot. The DWP people, well, they've got all the information at hand. They should know the answers as well. They should know how to read a letter that has a signature. That's number one. They should know about sensitivity, which is saying, actually, I'm on a panel, we've been talking to the DWP about this. But they have all the information at hand. You do not. Actually, an example can be is, well, it's November, when I started this podcast, there was January had announced there was going to be money for housing, affordable housing, a brilliant phrase. I asked the press office what is meant by the word affordable, which I still don't understand. I was told they don't have to answer that. Well, there is a way they have to answer it. Freedom of Information Act, which I must admit I haven't used yet, but I will. But once again, we come to the point is, the question for you is, what do we do about experts? Do we just say, oh, hell mighty expert, you know it all, and we must listen to every word you say? Well, in some cases we have to. In my case, in my medical situation, I had to, because this person knew. I wasn't very happy with the examination, but as far as I'm concerned, it must be right. There must be reasons. Actually, even the hospital said that it's possible to misdiagnose if you just look. But he should have done a physical examination. But he didn't want to. He stood, 3 feet away from me. He had an umbrella in one hand. He had his coat on, his mask, everything, and his bag in his hand. But he never once went down to examine my leg or my foot. Now, I'm not saying that would have saved my toes. No, I can't say that. That'd be stupid. But maybe the anxiety I've had might have been relieved. And that's the problem with experts. You don't get much anxiety relieved, do you? I have a proposal. And I want you to consider this. There should be some board or quango or ombudsman where we can challenge experts. Where if we're told this information, such as my friend's case, where he was told, look at the letter, and there was nothing. Well, there is nobody. With the DWP, there's nobody else you can talk to apart from the DWP. They are the gods. That's the Department of Work for Pensions. But we should be able to. Do you have an idea? I'd be very interested in hearing from you. I plan to do this every week and to share with you information, news and comment. The news is really there's nobody we can go to. We have to listen to the person, they are the God, and they've made that prediction, they're right. Well, are they always right? In my friend's case with her daughter, to say that she has anxiety, she's a single parent, well, I disagree, although mainly Klein, I think it was, worked with Freud, did say, give me a child to the age of 4, I'll model the rest of her life. So there are certain modelling behaviours, but not the emotional stuff. That is a lot more difficult things to think about what makes us up. I think I'm a fairly calm person. I very rarely lose my temper. But now other people lose it at the drop of the hat. But can we solve this problem of the experts? What do you think? Let me know. You can email me at binofwords@writeme, that's WRITEME.com. Thank you. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the spring statement that Rishi Sunak made. Tune in. If you enjoy